There's a moment most people never talk about, not because it's embarrassing, but because it's so subtle you almost miss it when it happens. It's the moment your brain stops treating money like a survival tool and starts treating it like a building material. Most people never reach it, not because they're lazy, not because they're bad with money, but because their brain is literally biologically wired to keep them exactly where they are. And until you understand what's happening inside your own head, no budgeting app, no side hustle, no financial advice is going to fix the real problem. My name is Nick, and I spend probably too much time studying the intersection of neuroscience, behavioral economics, and why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth, while others grind for decades and end up exactly where they started. If that's the kind of money conversation you've been missing, hit subscribe, and drop a thumbs up if this one changes how you see your own financial wiring now. Before we get into the exact number that rewires everything, we need to talk about something most financial content completely ignores. Your brain doesn't actually want you to be wealthy. That's not an insult. It's just neuroscience. The human brain evolved over hundreds of thousands of years in environments where scarcity was the default. Food was uncertain, shelter was temporary, resources could disappear overnight, so your brain developed an incredibly sophisticated threat detection system designed to do one thing above everything else: keep you alive, right now, not next year, not in 20 years, right now, asterisk. And here's the problem: that ancient survival system is still running in your head today, every single day. Even when you're sitting in a climate-controlled office with a steady paycheck and a refrigerator full of food, your brain cannot tell the difference between "I might not eat tomorrow" and "my savings account is low." To your nervous system, both of those feel exactly the same, and that feeling has a name. Psychologists call it scarcity mindset, and it doesn't just make you feel anxious about money. It literally reduces your cognitive capacity. A landmark study out of Princeton and Harvard found that financial scarcity consumes the equivalent of 13 IQ points of mental bandwidth. 13. That's the cognitive difference between a good night's sleep and severe sleep deprivation. You're not making bad financial decisions because you're bad with money. You're making them because your brain is running a background program. That's eating your processing power. Here's what that looks like in real life. You get a raise. Instead of investing the extra money, you upgrade your lifestyle without even consciously deciding to. You know you should be building an emergency fund, but every time you get close, something comes up and drains it. You tell yourself you'll start seriously saving when you earn more, but somehow more money never feels like enough to start. You see an investment opportunity, and instead of running the numbers, you feel a vague sense of dread and move on. None of this is weakness. None of this is poor character. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect present you from immediate threats. The problem is present you doesn't have the same threats your ancestors did, but your brain never got that memo. And here's where it gets really interesting. Scarcity mindset doesn't just affect how you feel about money. It creates a tunnel. Researchers at Harvard and Princeton described it this way: when the mind is focused on one urgent thing, it has less capacity for everything else. When money is the urgent thing, your mental tunnel narrows and locks out everything that isn't about immediate financial survival. Career opportunities that require a little risk, they're outside the tunnel. Investment strategies that take years to pay off, outside the tunnel. Conversations about building wealth instead of just surviving, way outside the tunnel. You're not ignoring these things because you don't care. You're ignoring them because your brain literally cannot hold them in focus. At the same time, it's managing financial stress. It's like trying to notice a beautiful sunset while someone is actively chasing you. The threat takes all available attention. Everything else disappears. So what breaks the tunnel? What is the actual neurological event that shifts your brain from survival mode into what researchers call slack thinking? Slack is the cognitive term for mental breathing room. The space your brain needs to think beyond immediate threats. And the answer isn't motivation. It's not a mindset shift. It's not reading the right book or watching the right video. The answer is a number, a specific measurable financial threshold that creates enough psychological safety to physically change how your brain operates. And that number for most people is somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 in accessible savings. Here's why that range exists. Research from the Financial Health Network found that having liquid savings of at least 3 months of living expenses is the single most predictive factor of long-term financial health. More predictive than income, more predictive than debt level, more predictive than financial literacy. Just having 3 months of expenses saved in an account you can actually touch changes your neurological baseline. For the average American spending around $4,000 to $6,000 a month, that lands somewhere around $15,000 to $25,000. But let's use $20,000 as our working number because it sits right in the middle, and it's clean enough to actually think about. When you cross that threshold, something real happens inside your brain. Not metaphorically. Physiologically, your cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone, measurably decrease. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term planning and rational decision-making, becomes more active. Your amygdala, the threat detection center, quiets down. You are literally operating with a different brain than you had before you crossed that number. The same study from Vanguard found that moving from zero savings to $2,000 increases financial well-being by 21%. But moving from $2,000 to a full 3 to 6 month emergency fund, that $20,000 zone, adds another 13% on top of that. And what those numbers represent isn't just happiness. They represent a documented shift in how people make decisions, take risks, and plan for the future. Here's a comparison that might make this click. Imagine two people interviewing for the same promotion. Person A is 3 weeks from overdrafting their account. Person B has $20,000 in savings. Same qualifications, same experience, same preparation. Who walks into that room differently? Person A is negotiating from fear. Every answer is filtered through, I cannot afford to lose this. Every question feels like a test with consequences. Their nervous system is slightly activated, slightly defensive, slightly small. Person B is negotiating from choice. They asterisk want the promotion, but they don't asterisk need it to survive next month. Their answers come from confidence. Their questions come from genuine curiosity. They push back when it makes sense because they can afford to. This is not attitude. This is not confidence coaching. This is basic neurochemistry. Financial safety changes the chemicals running through your brain, which changes your behavior, which changes your outcomes. Now, here's the part that most people get wrong when they hear this. They assume the $20,000 threshold is about the money. It's not. The money is just the key. What it unlocks is an entirely different relationship with risk. When you're operating in scarcity mode, risk feels like a threat to your survival. When you cross that threshold, risk starts feeling like an option. And that distinction is asterisk everything in wealth building. Think about what becomes possible when risk is an option instead of a threat. You can take the interview for the job that pays more but requires learning something new. You can say no to the client who treats you badly because you don't need their money this month. You can hold your investments through a market dip instead of panic selling because your immediate survival isn't dependent on that account balance. You can explore a business idea without the terror of financial catastrophe. None of these are dramatic moves. None of them require you to become a different person. They just require you to have enough of a buffer that your brain stops treating every decision like life or death. But here's the thing that makes this frustrating for most people. Getting to $20,000 is hardest, precisely because of the problem it solves. While you're trying to save your way out of scarcity mindset, your scarcity mindset is actively working against you. It's pushing you toward immediate consumption. It's making long-term thinking feel irrelevant. It's creating a psychological gravity that pulls you back toward zero every time you get some momentum. This is why so many people get to $5,000 saved and then something happens and they're back at zero. It's not bad luck, it's the threshold fighting back. So how do you actually cross it? The answer isn't just save more money. You've heard that. It doesn't work on its own. The answer is to make crossing the threshold a mission-critical objective above everything else. Treat it the way your brain treats survival, because for your financial future, it is survival. Every other financial goal, paying off low-interest debt faster, investing before the emergency fund is full, upgrading your apartment, treating yourself after a hard month, all of it waits. Nothing matters more than getting over that line. Because everything on the other side of that line is easier. Every financial decision you will ever make will be made better by a brain that isn't operating in survival mode. And here's the beautiful part. Once you cross it, you don't have to white-knuckle the discipline anymore, because your brain genuinely changes. The decisions that felt impossibly hard before start feeling natural. The sacrifices that felt like deprivation start feeling like strategy. The future that felt abstract starts feeling real. You didn't become a different person. Your brain just finally has the breathing room to think like the person you were always capable of being. The threshold isn't the finish line. It's the starting line, asterisk everything before it, you're fighting your own biology. Everything after it, your biology starts fighting for you. Your brain isn't broken. It's just running ancient software on a modern problem, and $20,000 is the update.